I feel that there is always such a need when beginning any kind of video about self-care to remind you that this video's intention is not at all to make you feel guilty or to add onto your plate of what you should do to be taking care of yourself. If you relate to feeling just like chronically exhausted in all realms of the word, burnt out, or feeling like you need to take more care of yourself, that is not at all your fault. If you were not placed in situations that are so taxing, you would not have to work so hard to take care of yourself. So before we get into today's self-care video, deep breath in and let it out. You are doing great. Please acknowledge yourself for all of the work that you have been doing to rest and to take care of yourself. If you cannot identify ways that you have been taking care of yourself recently, take a little pause so that you can identify those ways before we dive into broadening your knowledge and challenging you to think about self-care in different types of ways. Okay, that out of the way. Hello, my name is Anna, and this is another self-care video. It's been like an unofficial series on the channel of self-care videos. We have the moral injury one. We have that recent night routine one. We have a whole mental health and well-being playlist that if you haven't gone and watched the videos on it, like some of my backlist videos on it, I think could be real beneficial too, because I feel that we've built a foundation of knowledge about self-care, and this video is going to dive deeper into it in a different way, which are the 7 types of rest. Maybe that is something that you've heard of before. I definitely did not create it. I did not come up with it. I'll link a couple articles down in the description below that I personally used to help me script this video. But why the 7 types of rest exist is because many times when you think of rest, it might just be physical rest. Like, I'm going to rest by sitting on the couch today. Or maybe you even think of it as taking a break from to-do lists, taking a break from needing to be productive, which is also good. But the 7 types of rest will help us get a holistic picture of the 7 types of rest that you need, because if you're missing out on some of these types of rest, it could be a factor into why you feel so exhausted. I'm using the word exhausted, and I'll be using it throughout this video in a loose definition of the word. Obviously, if you're feeling like physically exhausted every single day to a point that it's concerning for you, go to a doctor, rule out medical conditions. Maybe you didn't sleep well last night. I'm not trying to say if you're exhausted it's because of this, but I think you all probably have a picture of the type of exhaustion that I'm talking about. It's the burnt out type of exhaustion, where you just wake up in a day and you already don't feel like you have the energy to do the day. Whether that's work, whether that's social events, whether that's sitting on the couch and somehow you still don't have the energy for it. I can relate to that. It's the burnt out exhaustion that I'm referring to. Engaging in these 7 types of rest will not fix you, but I do hope that it can inspire you to pinpoint ways that you would like to focus on rest in different ways than you currently do in your life. Sleep does not equal rest, as I'm sure everyone can relate to by waking up after a long night's sleep and still feeling tired sometimes. We live in a culture of high achieving, high producing, chronically tired, and chronically burnt out individuals, which is an issue in and of itself, and we need society change. But while we're still living in this society, I want individuals to be able to do so in a way that can feel pleasurable and enjoyable, and not like you're having to fight through each day to get through each day. So starting with type of rest number 1, the one that you're probably the most familiar with, physical rest. We need to ensure that our bodies have time to recharge, repair, restore themselves. And this can look different for different people of what you enjoy the best. Some passive ways that you can engage in physical rest are by getting high quality sleep. Maybe if you can one night, heading to bed a little bit earlier just so you get more hours that you've been lacking. Maybe taking a nap during the day. Those can definitely be necessary in order to physically rest. But there are also active ways that you can physically rest, and these are more of the restorative practices. So whether you're someone who likes yoga or who wants to get into yoga, you don't have to go to a yoga studio if you don't want to. Though if there are some in your area, look and see if they have like free first classes that you can try out or something like that. But YouTube has a plethora of free yoga classes from various different instructors that you can just turn one on one day, see how it feels for you. If yoga itself isn't something that you necessarily love, you can just stretch a little bit or a lot bit, kind of work out the stiffness that's in your body. I think it doesn't take too long existing in the mental health discussion areas of this world to hear how much your body can hold on to emotions that you have. So if you are feeling burnt out, if you are feeling stressed out, whether or not you're aware of it, your body is holding on to that in some type of way, even if that just is tension that you hold throughout the day. You're sitting at your desk and you're getting some back pains, you feel like you need to roll out, get a massage. There are even techniques like progressive muscle relaxation. You can also definitely search up on YouTube to find like guided ways to do it. There's evidence backing it up. There's been various studies. An easy way to explain it is that It involves the clenching and then relaxation of your muscles, and why that can be helpful lots of times is because lots of times you might not realize how much you already are tense. Like you can just sit there and be like, all right, body, relax. And that's a lot more mentally difficult than gaining control of your muscles by clenching them first and then following that with a relax. Some warning signs that you may see, which are signs that also could have various different other causes. So it's not universally, oh, okay, you need physical rest. But some warning signs that you might see that can kind of clue you in that you might need to start taking some physical rest is physical fatigue, body aches, various pains through your body, and obviously like also seek medical attention if you need medical attention. But if everything else is cleared out and you're still just feeling physically so tired, try dabbling in some sort of restorative physical practices so that you can really hone in on that physical rest. Type of rest number 2 is mental rest, and this is a hard one to get, and even harder to get if you're not aware that you need it. Some signs that you might need mental rest is whenever you're thinking so hard, your brain just hurts. Like, you know that feeling when you're just having so many thoughts that you can feel the thoughts happening? Maybe brain fog, like not being able to focus on anything, not really feeling present in the moment, maybe an inability to make decisions, kind of like decision fatigue, or maybe even when you're laying to rest at night, ready to go to sleep for the night, and then your brain won't be quiet. So it's like brain not doing enough whenever you need it to be doing more and doing too much whenever you need it to be quiet are some signs that you may need some mental rest. I think lots of times whenever we feel the need for mental rest, we'll do things that don't necessarily give mental rest. For example, one of my suggestions is going to be to give yourself small breaks throughout the day as you're working, to just give your brain a second to catch up, recuperate, recharge. And I think it's very natural and very habitual to, whenever you give yourself a break, start engaging your brain in some different kind of way. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take a 2-minute break from work, opens TikTok, starts scrolling TikTok. Your brain's not resting when you do that. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, get off TikTok, but like, it's not a rest. You're trying to take a rest, but you're doing an action that's not a rest. So taking breaks can look like, closing your eyes and focusing on a couple deep breaths, maybe like 4 to 5 deep breaths. And that gives your brain a second to just focus on breath, and that's it. That's it, rest. Meditation, if that's something you're comfortable with, or maybe you've never tried before but you want to try out, can be really good at mental rest and can also help you gain more control over your brain and more control over your thought, which is a tough skill to perfect. If you find that you get distracted whenever you try to meditate, try a guided meditation. Again, you can find so many different ones on YouTube that fit all different styles, all different voices, background musics, prompts to think about type of deal. Because whenever your brain is crying out for rest, saying, please, please let me take a break, try to let it take a break instead of filling it up with different things that are still taking energy from it. This is a mindfulness type of concept, and I'm gonna make a video about mindfulness as well. But have grace with yourself whenever you're trying to give yourself mental breaks to start with, because it's going to be hard because your brain isn't used to turning off or isn't used to just being a little quieter, whisper voice for a little bit. So it'll be super easy to get distracted or feel like you have random thoughts just popping in during your rest time. So give yourself grace with that and just acknowledge the thoughts as they come, and then either redirect your focus back to a meditation if you're doing a meditation, or kind of just let your brain go where it wants to and just be an observer of your thoughts, which is a mindfulness thing as well. But try not to beat yourself down as you're trying to give yourself mental breaks, because that is the opposite of rest. And even just having the intention to mentally rest is better than not doing anything at all or not being aware of it at all. So pats on the back for even trying. The third type of rest we'll talk about is spiritual rest. You don't have to be a spiritual person to need spiritual rest. It more so is just the ability to connect beyond the physical and mental and feel a sense of belonging, a sense of love, a sense of compassion, and a sense of purpose. And this is one that spiritual rest will look so different for different people depending on how they feel. Belonging, acceptance, purpose, all of that. Some warning signs though that you may be needing spiritual rest is feeling a lack of purpose. And a lot of this comes with being burnt out too, where you're like, why am I even doing what I'm doing? Am I making a difference? Am I making an impact? Is there a reason that I'm doing this? Everybody's reason is going to be different. Everybody's purpose is going to be different, but being tuned in with what your overall driving force is very important. So a universal way to get spiritual rest lots of times is doing some sort of community activity, whether that's giving back to the community in a way that really feels meaningful and purposeful to you, or just being involved in a community. It is so important for people to have spaces in which they feel safe and they feel accepted and they feel like they belong. I urge you to seek out spaces like that for yourself, whatever that may look like, while also acknowledging that those spaces aren't physically present for every single person. So maybe having spiritual rest might look like finding an online community where you feel accepted and you feel like you belong. Because also being part of a safe space with people like you are helping continue that safe space and even create that safe space, sustain that safe space for other people like you who need to feel accepted and like they belong. And being involved in community doesn't have to be a super structured type of deal. It can just be your friend group. If you have a wonderful friend group, staying involved in that. Or expanding out, and there's always people in need that are very, very close to you. So if you can give back to a community in any type of ethical way, that can help give you spiritual rest. But there also is an individual part to spiritual rest, and that is where it's going to look different for every single person. It's a lot less universal. For some people, prayer. For some people, meditation. For some people, journaling. For some people, reading the Bible or reading the Quran or reading whichever religious book gives them comfort and purpose. But the big one, and this is why we talk about the different types of rest, is that maybe you are the most physically rested person in this world, and maybe you are the most mentally rested person in this world, but you still don't feel a purpose in your days. That's where spiritual rest could be something to start to put some energy into. The fourth type of rest is emotional rest. Some warning signs that you may be needing emotional rest is feeling a huge emotional burden on your shoulders that just never lets up, that you don't have a way to offload, that you are just holding on to for yourself. Holding tightly onto uncomfortable emotions builds up, and it really can feel crushing and debilitating. No matter where you're at in life, I'm sure that there's emotionally something that you're going through. Sometimes in life it's more heavier than other times in life, but there's something. And bottling it up or pushing it to the side has not been shown to actually help people get through it. Maybe it's insecurity. Maybe it's the constant need to please others. Maybe it's feeling that you're not good enough. Maybe there's some trial or tribulations you are facing in life. Passively taking emotional rest is just being your authentic self, which can be definitely hard to do. But just being without expectation, without feeling like you need to fit into someone else's box for yourself, without feeling like you are coping through something hard in the wrong way, or your feelings are not good, or your feelings are not valid. It will provide emotional rest to be real and to be authentic, and to share inner experiences openly with others, with safe others, with people who appreciate the authentic you. Lots of times we're our own biggest enemy with this too, where if you have a lot of negative self-talk going on up here, it can be mentally exhausting, but that also is emotionally exhausting. If therapy is something you've thought about, it is definitely something that can help emotional rest and learning to work through emotions and not feel as burdened by emotions. But then also, and this is another mindfulness concept, but just accepting yourself, accepting your situations, accepting how you feel, that also can provide emotional rest. So this will look different for every single person, but the most important thing is just acknowledging when you need emotional rest and then trying to suss out how is the most helpful for you. In what areas, with what people, at what time can you just let yourself be? This fifth one is a big one that we think about, but not as much, I think, as we should, and that is sensory rest. People definitely have different distress tolerances as far as like sensory overload goes, and if you have experienced sensory overload, then you know exactly what that feels like. But even if you're not someone who regularly experiences sensory overload, your senses are being used at pretty much every time of day. Just from bright lights, your phone screens, your computer screens, background noise. It's not bad to listen to like music in the background while you work. But if one of your senses is always being used, maybe 24/7, maybe not quite 24/7, that is something that drains you. A sign that maybe sensory rest is something you should kind of focus on, think about a little bit more, can just be to notice how your energy levels, like the mental energy levels, the burnout energy levels go throughout the day. Because if you wake up in the day and you're like, I am doing good, I am feeling emotionally rested, I'm feeling mentally rested, physically rested, spiritually rested. But then as the day goes on, you just get more and more drained. It could be something to notice of, are there times where you can experience quiet? Or maybe during the middle of the workday, just closing your eyes for a little bit and be like, I am giving this sense a break. So ways to incorporate sensory rest into your day, which I've already mentioned some of them, but avoiding bright lights, avoiding computer screens or phone screens for some period of time. Some people will even do this for a whole day, have like, okay, on Sunday, I'm just gonna try not to get on my phone or not get on any screens. And that really can help with sensory rest. We don't always realize how stimulating our phone is, because it's good, it's fun, but it's stimulating. Or being aware of how often you multitask. If you're trying to play a game while also listening to a podcast, while also writing a paper, something like that, overload is likely not too far away. So my encouragement to you is just start being aware of your sensory needs and when it might be too much sometimes. The sixth type of rest is social rest. And remember, the goal again is recharge, which obviously, as we know, different people get recharged from different types of social interactions. We got the extroverts, we got the introverts. But as far as social rest goes, Think of it as having relationships that are recharging to you. Positive, supportive, meaningful relationships, whether that's with a partner or a friend or a family member. Having the connection to other beings, because we are social beings, that is positive and good. Obviously, we don't get to pick who we spend all of our days with, who we spend all of our time around. And don't say their name out loud, but I'm sure you can think of people your interactions with may leave you feeling more drained than your interactions with other people. And so social rest is kind of like, picking the good flowers out of the field, being like, this is a great friend who I want to spend time with because I feel recharged when I'm with them. I feel that they are supportive. I feel that they are positive. I can be that back to them. Not only are they a great friend, but they provide me the space to show my best side to them. Social rest is important. I didn't write down warning signs that you may need social rest because I think this is one that it really, really varies person to person. So maybe take a second and think to times in your life where you have needed social rest. Maybe you haven't been surrounded by people who are positive and supportive, or maybe you've craved a different type of relationship than one that you have. Whatever warning signs were present for you in that time, keep a lookout for them because that might be signs in the future that you need to focus on social rest again. Last but not least, our 7th type of rest is creative rest. You do not have to consider yourself a creative person to need creative rest. Everyone uses creativity in their day some type of way, whether that is artistic, which is how we usually think of creativity, or whether that's being a creative problem solver, creative brainstormer, creative doing things a different way, innovation. There's lots of different ways to be creative that we don't always initially think of because creativity often attaches itself to art, which art does require creativity, but also so do a lot of other areas of life. Some ways to engage in creative rest include doing anything that makes you feel awe or wonder. It is hard to be at a beautiful place in nature and not feel awe and wonder. Of just like, wow, this is our earth. This is beautiful. Appreciating beauty in any form is creative rest. In a more active way of engaging in creative rest, that could be making the spaces around you be visually appealing to your eye, which does not have to mean like going out and buying so many different decorations and everything. You can do it with whatever you have now, but just some type of visually appealing space, or having pictures of things that you love, places that you love, people that you love, that you can see. Leaning into your favorite color, like getting clothes in your favorite color, visually appealing types of things. Or going out in nature. Going out in nature is so often a creativity boost. It would be hard to spend 40 hours a week staring at blank surroundings or staring at jumbled, cluttered surroundings and expect to feel passionate about anything, much less to come up with creative ideas, innovative ideas, new ideas. If you're feeling that lack of passion, spiritual rest is definitely something to look into, as we already talked about, but it also could be some type of creative rest. Appreciate beauty because you'll feel more passionate about creating beauty, even if that is numbers or you're a project manager, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be art to be something beautiful. These are some of my favorite videos to make because lots of times they're over topics that I feel passionate about and I love and I've learned a lot about over the years just from being interested in it, and so I love being able to share that knowledge. Hopefully there's at least one takeaway that you can take from this video. If you've made it to the end, go ahead and put this emoji here. I haven't decided what it is yet, but I'll put it here this time. In my last video, I forgot to actually put it on the screen. Comment this emoji and also put in the comments what your takeaway from this video is. Whether it's just something you're gonna think about, something you're gonna remember, something new you're gonna try. I would love to hear how this video impacted you if it did. Subscribe before you go, and I'll see you next time.
I do better things with my time than trying to make